Gieva Cordia, you're very, very welcome to another Fireside Chat, wherever you are in the world. This is our 94th Fireside Chat. So if you can put in where you're from, it would be lovely to welcome you. Hi, Lisa from Washington. That's lovely. And thanks for the welcome back. I was away at a conference last week, so it's great to be back again. So I'm just waiting for more people to come. Just a question, did people get a notification that this was on? Because somehow I didn't. And even though I'm on Facebook, and other people told me the last two times that they didn't get any notification. Anyway, hi, Anne. Lovely to see you from Montreal. That's wonderful. Hi, Ferdiad from London. Red Wing, cold, Edinburgh. Well, it was 15 degrees last Sunday here in Kilkenny, and then it's down to 9 degrees today. And actually, we need a bit of cold just to be seasonal. But hi, John from Scotland, Carmen from New Zealand. Oh, well done on the southern. Oh, yeah. So, Freddie, you got the notifications. That's great. Hi, John from Slough. That's wonderful. Alison from Ohio. Ava, Belgium. Hi, Ricardo. That's lovely to see you all. That's great. So, all right. So, hi, Erin from Denver. Oh, it's below freezing and snowing. It seems it's way, way too mild for snowing here. So I hope you're coping with the weather. Hi from Colorado. Hi, Philippa, Southern California. Wonderful. Absolutely. So it's great to be back. So we are going this evening to Scotland. And hi, Elvira. Ciao. Hi, Alan from Tipperary. So we're going to, let me introduce you to my guest this evening. It's Corey Raven. Corey, you are so welcome.
Hello. How are you?
So tell us where you are in Scotland.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm in Perth, in Scotland, central Scotland, Perth, the city of Perth, the Fair Maid City, they call it. A very historical city in Perth, but I originally come from a little town outside of Perth called Cooper Angus.
Oh.
That's where I was brought up as a young boy, but I was born 1953 in a little town called Ailith, which is a very old town as well. So I kind of come from the countryside, from a very small town in Cooper Angus, and I've now laid my hat to rest in Perth here in Scotland, where I've been for a good 30 years plus, possibly.
So how does it get the name, the Fairmaid? Did you say Fairmaid City? Where did it get that name?
Well, I'm not totally adverse with the whole story, but it's a story of the Fair Maid of Perth was a woman who lived in a very, very small house, which is still there at the moment, and they've kind of refurbished it up a little bit, but you can still go and see the house. And there was something to do between her and some battles that we had on the inches here. Perth's known as the smallest city in the world because it sits in between 2 inches. It's sitting between the North Inch and the South Inch.
Wonderful.
And Perth is the very smallest city in the world because it sits in between 2 inches. So that's a little thing that I forgot about Perth, but you know. But the Fair Maid I don't know very much about, but it's renowned. Perth is renowned as the Fair Maid City.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I was driving up through Perth, well, traveling, I wasn't driving, on my way to Orkney a few weeks ago. I was going to a storytelling festival. So it's an amazing landscape. Will you describe the landscape as you see it and maybe mention any important sites that are there? What's it like?
Well, Perth used to be the ancient capital of Scotland.
Ah, okay.
It was a Pictish capital, and I'm quite into a lot of Pictish things, and Perth was quite a renowned ancient old Pictish capital, and we have hill forts on hills, not very high hills, but hills still the same, where we have many hill forts and Roman forts and places of like this, and caves and historical little stories about the hill forts. King Brui of the Picts was supposed to have lived in the hill fort here in Moncrief Hill,
Okay.
and it was excavated just a few years ago. And I was lucky to get up, and I took a lot of nice pictures of the big 2-3 meter thick walls and stuff like this of the old fort. But the hill fort is known as Moncrief Hill, as I say, but it's also known as Hill of the Trees. And it's a fantastic walk. I walk up there with my dog. I used to walk every weekend. And it's you have two routes. You have a tourist route, and you have the old route from the back, which is twice as long. And you go through the forests, up through the trees, through the water, up until the top of the mountain, and then it's one of the highest points in the whole of Perth area that you can see right through to Perth, right up. You can actually see right up to Glencoe, to Ben Nevis on a very, very clear day. So you can see it's a fantastic place to visit. Anybody comes to Perth, you must go to Moncrief Hill.
Well, Gunter, who's in Switzerland, wants to know: are there still old ghosts there?
Ghosts?
Yes, old ones.
Oh, there's ghosts everywhere. I know people. I can talk on here because I'm talking to like-minded people.
You can,
and I don't mind admitting, but I believe in ghosts. I've had interactions with strange things in the past. I've also got I know a couple of stories of family things that happened with someone passing. I've had one of my druids showed me a video and a talk of when their little boy had died, and they were lying in the bed, and she took a video of the orbs coming down from the ceiling, going into the body, and coming out of the body with an extra orb and going back into the ceiling. And she wasn't taking any video or anything at the time that would be any camera things like this. But when she seen it coming down, she took a picture, and when she seen them going back up, she took a picture, and you can see them very. So I'm a big believer in weird, fascinating things like this, ghosts, and we do have ghosts in Perth. I haven't met any in Perth. I haven't seen any in Perth, but I do believe that they will be around, or fairies, or somebody, or things will be around. And Perth is it's not a big city in Scotland. There's about 60,000 people, maybe 60 odd to 70,000. It's not a big city, but it's like a country city. But it's covered in trees and the River Tay, and fascinating. There is stone circles. I can go out to stone circles just a couple of miles away from my house. There's 3 stone circles in a straight line that I sometimes visit. Wow. We have Macbeth's castle.
Okay.
Just out of Perth, and we have Macbeth's woods, the woods in Dunkeld. It's a very famous place. Plus the fact we have the Palace of Scone, where you've heard of the Stone of Destiny.
Yes, indeed.
Aye, and there's so much myth and history about that.
Did you get the stone back?
Well, there's big controversy over what stone is what now, because there's so much stories being passed about that the stories. I'm fascinated with the Stone of Destiny, but I love to hear other people's stories and thoughts about it. And I've once tried on Facebook to get as many people to write about it, to try and find out all the different stories. But the Stone of Destiny, the one that's at Scone Palace at the moment, is a replica. The one which is supposed to be in Edinburgh Castle, which I think now is down in England for
Mhm.
the king's
Coronation.
coronation. The one that the one that they think that they have now, we have people in Scotland who believe it's a replica also.
Okay.
A very short story about the stone is that when the English were coming up to raid Perth, we had Cromwell up here. It's a very famous historical place, Perth. There's been lots of battles, lots of people. William Wallace lived here, had a girlfriend in Perth. You know, there's lots of stories about Perth, but one story about the Stone of Destiny was that they heard that the English were coming up to raid Scotland and captured the stone.
Okay.
And the friars at the old church got wind of this, and people say that what they did was they got the blacksmiths to make a replica of the stone and take away the real stone, and it's hidden in one of the hills around Scotland, and it will only come out when Scotland is free.
Ah.
And there's so many stories about it, that it's unbelievable. But it's a wonderful thing to do some research on. But I must admit, the stone that's went down to England, it looks quite an old, well-fashioned old stone. But anyway, so that's the Stone of Destiny. But Perth, there is lots of ghosts. There's lots of places that are supposed to be haunted.
Mm-hmm.
There's old Venels. There's old hotel which is supposed to have a haunted ghost in it. But so far in Perth, I haven't seen anything. But I do believe in it, yes. And I do believe that I'm sure there is many stories about Perth where you can find out about the ancient that because of the witches being burned just outside in Abernethy.
Tell us about that. Tell me about that.
Well, again, I don't know the full story of it. I just it's years. I'm thinking about stories years ago that I was told. And there's a hills out by Abernethy, which is a very historical little village, where Bridget was supposed to have been there.
Okay, the goddess. Okay.
Yeah, Bray was there when she was a nun.
Oh, the saint. All right, go on.
And when she was there, the Picts built a tower, the Tower of Abernethy, which is an ancient old Pictish tower with carved stones at the gate at the entrance, and it's right in the grounds of the old church. And Bridget was supposed to be a nun who came across from Ireland and came to visit the church. And the Picts, because they were changing into Christianity at the time, built her this tower. And only they built this tower in the night. The Picts only came out at night and built this tower, and during the day they weren't to be seen. But this tower now stands. It's I don't know, maybe 30, 40 meters high, a big round tower, and you can go inside it. You get the key from the cafe across the road, and there's this ancient old big door, and the key is about 7, 8 inches long. It's a great big old key, and you get the key and you can go in, and you can walk up the stairs. You can go right to the very top, and then you can see the whole of Abernethy, and also that it's spoken that you might have something to say about this, but St. Bridget is supposed to be buried under the stones in the church, in the old church in Abernethy.
I think there'll be a few people have to say something about that, but that's really, really interesting. And I'm really intrigued by the Picts coming out at night to build the tower.
Yes. there was an author, I can't remember his name, Ian McHardy or something like that. McHardy's his second name anyway, and he's an absolutely fantastic guy to go and visit to see when he's doing his talks. And he writes a lot of Pictish books and stories and myth and legend. If anybody's into myth and legend and folklore, in Pictish folklore and that, and McHardy, I think it's Ian McHardy, but I can't see his book just now. I've got tons of his books, but Ian McHardy is his second name.
Okay.
And he wrote a lot of Pictish books and history and folklore about the Picts. And this is where I got this kind of story. But when he tells it, it goes on for ages. It tells you about how the Picts came out at night time and their long hair. And they were very small people, seemingly. They weren't very tall people, some of them. But they wouldn't be the warriors. These would be the workers and the builders.
What happened to the Picts? Are there any traces of them? What happened to them?
Well, I'm not a historian. I don't know a lot of history about what happened to them. But what I know, what happened to them, is that as they were converted into Christianity, and they interlinked with the Scotties from Ireland who came across to Danad.
Yeah.
And then Kenneth MacAlpine integrated all the Pictish tribes and the Scottish tribes just outside Perth here. We have a place where Scotland was actually formed. All the tribes gathered just outside Perth here in Forganderry. And this is where they all congregated, and Kenneth MacAlpine reunited them into the one banner and to the one people, and he called it Alba, and that's where Alpa comes from.
So it's an integration. I didn't know that, of the Scoti and the Picts.
Yes, and all the other tribes, and then they gradually lost their identity through
assimilation,
like everything else, and left Scotland with all these famous great big standing stones with carved animals. And I think I gave you a stone.
You did.
With a carved, one of the Pictish, one of the famous Pictish carved animal on it, of the sea serpent, that nobody knows what they are. Nobody knows what any of the Pictish drawings, what they represent, or what they mean. It's all thought, and the scientists and the archaeologists and everybody, they're all it's all stories. They don't know 100% what things are, but they're just trying to put things together and build on evidence and build on things. But the greatest thing about it is no one knows what the Pictish animals represent.
Wow. Because just Stephanie, thank you for putting this up, Stephanie. She says, I found a Stuart who wrote the book about the Picts. Could that be the author? That's the one.
Stuarty. Yeah, he's a great guy.
Thank you for that, because I'm really interested in hearing those stories. Because I've been to Dunad, and I know there's a carving of a boar, and they say that that's a Pictish carving.
Yes, well, you see, the boar is the sign of a Pictish tribe's chief. The tribe's chief would have the sign of the boar.
Okay.
And at Danad, did you go to the top?
I did, and my foot fit in the King's Hole in that place. Howard's didn't, but mine did.
All right. I've been up there many times, and you know that stone that you're standing on is plastic.
No, don't tell me that, please. What do you mean? Is it a replica?
No, there's a real stone underneath it, but there were so many people who used to come up and stand in it that the people who look after the place put a plastic coating over the stone.
Wow.
And over the footprint, So now when you stand on it, you're not actually standing on a stone, you're actually standing on a thin layer of plastic. And
Wow.
you're frightened to take it off because it might damage the stone underneath. So,
Yeah, they could easily do that. Yeah.
but you also have it's you'll know, of course, that the footprint, it's thought anyway, because nobody knows 100%, but it's thought that the footprint is where all the kings
Yes.
of the tribe would go up and he would put
Yep.
his foot in the footprint, and he'd have a bowl of water there and everything, and he would be inaugurated as the king of the tribe of whatever. But the unfortunate thing about being a king of the tribes was that the women had most of the say, and it was thought that when famine came to the tribe, the king would be sacrificed, and
Wow.
then the women would go away, and they would then uh, choose another king,
One
another,
who's fit in the footprint.
and they would go up and get inaugurated and stuff. And we actually have another place in Scotland that I know of. I think there's a few places, but I only know two. One's Dunad, and one's called Dunino. And if you ever get to Scotland again, and you
Where's
go
the Nino?
and you go, Dunino Den is a very famous little place in Fife where is the big bell rock. There's a big rock, and on top of the rock is a carving of a footprint and a little well dug out for water. And you can stand on the rock and you look right down onto the den, and it's thought of being a druidical sort of religious site from ancient times, because they have also two little streams that meet, and when two streams meet and make into one, it seems to be it's also a piece of a magical thing for the druid as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. In Irish, we call where two rivers meet a cummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's Dunad, and there's a place in Fife called Dunino, which is, if you ever get to St Andrews area, then you must look up the village of Dunino and then find out how to go down to the Den.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
it's beautiful there, but it's now being, I wouldn't say vandalised, but I don't know what other people see about it. You get a lot of Wiccans and maybe witches, a lot of pagans maybe going down to the Den, and you get a lot of the trees maybe get covered in plastic ornaments and stuff, and then you find tea light candles lying about, the silver bits lying about, stuff like this, you know. So I think some time during the year, I think some of the local pagan federation of Scotland, they go down. I heard they go down to the place and clean it up,
Mm-mm.
you know. But
Carmen said, that's interesting. Carmen says the Picts were non-Indo-European like the Basques in northern Spain and the Etruscans in Italy. Have you any view on that or any information about that?
the Picts, to a Scottish person, the Pict is the indigenous people of Scotland. That's all I could really say.
And they were in Ireland as well. We call them
In Ireland, they don't know where actually they have roots of where they think they came from and travelled into Scotland in the beginning. I mean, everybody in them days, the North Sea was a forest. You know, Scotland had bears and
Yeah.
and probably wolves and elephants and everything walking about it. You know, uh, nobody. This is the great mystery that nobody really knows where the Picts actually came from.
Uh-huh.
They maybe did come from certain other areas, but then maybe there was indigenous people here already, like the Native Americans, the Hopis in America, uh, who were there for hundreds and hundreds of years before anybody else stepped foot. You know, so to me, I personally believe that the Picts were like an indigenous people who lived in Scotland, but then were infiltrated by others because the seas at that time, as you know, was the motorways, and people would come to Scotland. And as the years went on, and well, the North Sea was there, and the ships were up and down, and trade was going on.
Mm-hmm.
People would intermingle, marry, have children, and everything just progressed and progressed. You got to remember also that I've got to keep on reminding myself that when I go thinking back into the indigenous people, I'm not talking about maybe there was a town of 12 or 15,000 people. Just talking about a village of maybe 200.
Yeah.
The population was so small at that time. So yeah, I was born right in the middle of Pictavia. Pictavia was the area where the Picts lived.
Okay.
So, and Aelith, where I was born, is right in the middle of Pictavia. So when people say, "Oh, you classify, you're a Scot?" Yes, I'm a Scot. Yes, and what do you believe in? But well, I says, well, I believe that I'm a Pict. I'm from Pictish ascent. I said, I don't know, but I'm born in Scotland. I'm Pictish. That's what I am. But my great granny and my great great granddad were born in Ireland, Cork, Cork and Dublin. And I have a cousin and also an American cousin. The two of them have been doing a family tree,
Mm-hmm.
and it's unbelievable how far they have got back.
Wow.
They are away back into Ireland, into the 16 oatcakes
Wow.
people that they've found, and so I've got all the like everybody. You've got Irish ancestors somewhere down the line, but when they say to me, "Oh, you're Irish," and I say, "No, I'm not. I'm Scottish. First of all, I'm Scottish, but my belief is that I'm Pictish. So I call myself the Pictish Druid. I'm a Pictish Druid.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah, it's all fun. It's all good.
Um, so just Hannah wants to know, what is the extent of the Pict area? Is it very big?
Well, the Pictish area was Pictavia was the whole of central Scotland from away down by north of Edinburgh,
Okay.
just north of Edinburgh, to way up top of Argyll, away around. You know, it was quite a large area, but there was other areas when the Scottish came across and took the whole Argyll, and they took the whole sort of western side, and then you had the other people from down English way came up from up to the south of Edinburgh, and they
Mhm.
started taking it under the river sort of Tay there, and then from the River Tay from Perth, everything was Pictish right up to like the north of Scotland. But it's a fascinating subject if you have time to sit and read it and listen to some of the real historians who know quite a lot about it. I know bits about it, but at the moment I'm a little bit going round in my head trying to think about things to let you know about. But Danad, as you said, was a fantastic place, and we went to Danad, and with my Druid group we went to Kilmartin. Did you
Yes,
go
I
to
bet you
Kilmartin? Into the Yeah, we were down to
Meg
Kilmartin.
saw the carvings.
Yeah, yeah.
Howard wrote an article about that. Had a theory about how it worked, what the stone carvings meant, and he actually tested it out. And he said his thing was that it was a moon calendar. So he was editing an article on it the day he died. So
Oh, right. Well, went down to Temple Woods, down to Kilmartin, and we held a ritual there many years ago.
oh, wonderful.
And it was I was telling you all about. I'm finding things like being a giant spider's web where the web of life, the web of connection is meeting people, meeting things, things happening.
Mhm.
That when we held this ritual there was two girls sitting watching us away in the distance, and someone said, "Why don't you go and ask them to come and join us instead of
Mhm.
watching?" So I went across and asked them if they'd like to come and sit and join us and share our drink and our food and chat. And it turned out that one of the girls that was there, actually, about a month before, I went to visit. Have you heard of the Corrie-Vrecken
Yes.
whirlpool? Well, I went to visit the Corrie-Vrecken whirlpool.
Yeah.
I was blessed by the Corrie-Vrecken whirlpool. We took the big rubber boat out and went round it and up and down it.
Were you spinning around in it, or
Yeah,
what was it?
yeah. And I brought a big crystal with me, and I said a little prayer on the crystal when I was going through the whirlpool. I threw it over the side into the whirlpool, and as I threw it over the side and turned, this big waft of water came up and soaked me. So as I gave it my crystal, it gave me a nice wave back. I was the only one in the boat who got soaked. And the girl who was driving the boat was this girl who was sitting at Temple Woods watching the ceremony.
Wow. Just tell our viewers about the Corrie-Vrecken.
The Corrie-Vrecken is supposed to be something like the fourth biggest whirlpool in the world.
Mhm.
It's now, if I could have got a hold of John King, who's there watching at Ardnamurchan, he would tell you the islands between where this whirlpool is, and it's so vast. It's where two waters. I think I would right in saying it's where two waters of the sea meet, and
Uh-huh.
right where they meet, right down the bottom, there's a great big point, like a big pike sticking up from the ground, and where they meet, it swirls around this spike, and you can be sitting there and you can be watching a little whirlpool, and the next thing you can see is just this massive, maybe 30, 40 foot, huge big whirlpool going round and round. You diving across it in your speedboat, and back and forth and up and down. But in ancient days, I've heard that the local people used to swim from the island, from one island to the other.
John says he just answered. He says it's by the Isle of Jura.
Yeah, that's it. Island of Jura, yeah.
It didn't occur to me that anyone would be crazy enough to go either swimming in it or
Yeah, so
going
I
in
think
boat. I know I want to do it. Just
I think because I think I think it was because they didn't have a lot of the ferries at the time. That there was one guy who used to a farmer or somebody who used to swim across to the mainland. You
wow.
know, but if you ever get up there, it's worth a wee jaunt out in the boat. It does give you a wee bit scary, but it's beautiful.
Wow. And is it not associated also with the kayak?
Yes, the kayak is supposed to be when the Corrie-Vrecken is in full whirl. They reckon that the kayak is what do they call it? Like planking or blankets in the water.
Oh, yes.
The
Okay.
weather, because of
Yeah.
the weather, just
Yeah.
dousing their blankets in the water when
Oh,
the you know. Yeah. It's a amazing place, and it's like a lot of places, but I just like it. I like it. Scotland is just full of these magical, mystical places. A
wow.
bit like Ireland, but
Oh, yeah.
I
I'm
haven't been in Ireland very much, so I don't know. But
You have to visit, but Scotland is so rich. Catherine Sola says hello to you.
Catherine, yeah, uh-huh.
So
She may be. I don't know where she is. She was going to be going to to Mull to the small island there to do something, but I can't remember if she did or not.
Mull is brilliant as well. Lots of interesting places in Mull.
Yes, Mull's lovely. I went to Mull, and I was going to climb the mountains there because I did a lot of the mountain climbing. And when I went there, it started raining, so I never got a chance to go up the mountain. It was covered in fog and rain. But Mull is beautiful.
It is,
Yeah,
and it's the island you pass through or you drive through to get to Iona. Just beautiful.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's one of my ventures. Is I must go to Iona and have a good walk round.
Oh yeah.
It's it's one of my plans for the before I travel somewhere else. It's somewhere I want to visit. Yeah, definitely.
So I remember the first time we met. It was 2014 at the 50th, when Howard and I were there. So
I can remember when I first met you, and I remember when I was down there at that time at the 50th, and I didn't know very many people at the time.
mhm.
In fact, I just met that day my fantastic friend Brendan Howland,
Ah, yes.
and Brendan is just one of my favorite people. And I met he was my bardic tutor, so
Oh, okay.
it was good for me to make a connection with my tutor, because then it made me more connected, more
Hmm.
deep connection with the OBOD and then my course and everything. But when we're at the top, I didn't know anybody else. I didn't know anybody. I just went down myself. I didn't have any friends or anybody there with me. And I thought, well, the only way to everybody, like, what it's like. It's a great community. Everybody speaks to everybody else, regardless.
Yes,
You can't stand long before somebody speaks to you or asks you something.
yes, yes.
Well, I saw Howard standing in a kilt, and I thought, oh, here's this wee Scotsman there. There's a wee Scotsman there. I'll go and speak to him. I says, and find out where he's from Scotland. He might be from same area as me. So I went across and I was chatting away to Howard, and he was telling me that he wasn't from Scotland. He was obviously from Ireland. And then after a fashion, you came across and we got talking. And I kind of met you on and off every summer gathering after that.
That's right.
But I find it very fascinating that you're the only person that every time I'm down there, all I hear is, hello, Ray, and Ray, because my name's Ray. And you always say hello to me. And I was, oh, hello there, how are you doing? And oh, how are you doing? So it's a great connection. That's that I've kind of sort of it was sad when I heard that he'd passed, and
I know. Yes,
I thought, it's sad when you meet these people, and then the next thing you know is that they're kind of gone,
that's
and you're
right.
not going to be able to meet them again. And it was kind of sad for me. There's a couple of people now that I know who have passed on. And
Mm,
it's sad that they won't be able to enjoy the gatherings again. But we're all going to go at one point.
we
So
are.
uh, better not talk too much about that, because that's a wee bit of a sad story about death in our family, because we've had quite a lot of death in our family. Uh,
Okay.
we've had quite a few suicides.
Wow. Okay.
Uh, we've had young children dying. Uh, it's one of these things that uh, I've always found that my druidry has kind of made me a little bit stronger towards uh, facing
Yeah.
the death, or facing other people's death also. I mean, basically what you could probably say is that when I think about it is, you know, when I was brought up as a Catholic. I
Hmm.
was I was originally in a Protestant school, but my mother was very, very staunch Catholic, and she wanted me to go to the Catholic school in the next town 4 miles away.
Okay.
So I think I was about primary 1 in the Protestant school, and then she took me out, me and my sister, and put me to the Blair Gowrie St. Stephen's school there, the Catholic school. And it was probably, she was probably thinking she was doing good, but it ended up being the worst thing that ever probably happened to me. I, maybe better not go too deeply into it. I don't know if I should, but
Feel free to share what you're comfortable with. So,
well, it wasn't a very good experience. Let's say the children were bullied,
okay.
brutalized. I can still see a guy, Pat O'Malley, and the guy McCarthy, and young boy O'Malley, where the headmaster took him out in front of the class and beat him right across the floor until he landed underneath the piano in the far corner. And all because the headmaster was a terrible man, that he used to go out of the classroom and put his recorder on. And so when he went away for his coffee, all the kids, we would all be sitting there chatting to each other. And some people might even have a sweary word or something. And he'd come back in and he would replay the tape. And he'd just say, right, O'Malley, you out here. Right, you out here. You out here. And you go out. Oof, oof, oof. And I was forced to go to the church, or I'd be taken out. If you didn't go to the church and sing in the choir, you were taken out and ridiculed in front of the whole school. You were forced to sing a hymn in Latin in front of the whole school, and told to be at church on Sunday or else. You know, it was. This is 53. This is about 1959, 60. You know,
Wow.
so it's a long time ago. And the headmaster, he wasn't a very nice man. So when I got out of that school, I just got out primary 7. I got out and I opened the gates opened and we all went out, and I just turned around and I ain't saying, ain't going back there, brother. I ain't going back there. And I had to walk past the church and says, I ain't going back in there. And I think that was the start of a big thing in my mind about what do you believe in? You know, who do you believe in? What do you believe? And I couldn't believe in the Catholic Church anymore after that. But my mother was still very staunch Catholic, and having, as I said, Irish great grandparents and that, and my granny and all that, they were all very staunch Catholics. That it was kind of hard to sort of kind of let her down. You felt you were letting her down, you know. So you kind of did things to keep keep the peace, you know. So anyway, it'd be apart from all that, it's part of my life that probably changed me to become what I am. And the things that happened, and your thoughts and what you find as you get older through your teenage years and your rebellious years. I did it all the same, you know, but I could never find out. I could never put something on me that I was a Catholic, or I was this, or I believed in that. And so I kind of believed that I didn't believe in anything, but I believed in things that I could see happening. I believed in reality. I believed in things that I could actually see, and I didn't believe in what people told me. I kind of rebelled against what people telling me to do things. So I'm kind of one of these people who, if it's got the sign "keep off the grass," I'll go and stand in the grass to find out what the problem is. There's not really any problem at all. The grass is there, so you could stand it and you can walk on the path again. You know, I say, well, what's the problem? Well, why they tell us to do these things? Why they tell us to stay, go to church? Why they tell us we must do this, or why tell me I'm going to go to hell if I blaspheme Jesus Christ and say something, So it all got a wee bit out of hand, and my path went right down a kind of a wild streak. I was a bit of a wild lad when I was young, and but I had three sisters. I had two bigger sisters and one small sister. And the two bigger sisters, they would keep me in hand a bit, and I kind of progressed from being a kind of wild child up into a sporty child, and then everything for me was just sport. All I wanted to do was sport.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of football. I played a lot of football and a lot of badminton. I did. My maths teacher, he took us up the hills of the town. He took us for walks, miles, hours on end, all the way up to the top of the mountains and hills and that. And this was fantastic. And I found out that nature was more exciting than being in the class. And I thought, well, I didn't want to be in the class. I want to be out there. And every time that he invited people to come and have a nature walk, or let's go and pick grasses and identify trees, or identify this, and then we'll maybe go to that castle up on that hill over there one day. I would, well, yes, I'll come, sir. So I was kind of his favourite boy because I went everywhere that he went. I went as well. And it then progressed into meeting some friends who introduced me to the bigger mountains of Scotland, and to the big, the Munros and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And I was always frightened to climb one, because I always thought it was too high to climb. And I would look at people climbing them and think, oh, look at that idiot. Look, they must be absolutely knackered climbing there. How can they climb up there and stop? And oh, that's terrible. I ended up being one of them myself. And I think I managed up to about 160 odd Munros.
What?
But the Munros are the highest mountains in Scotland.
They're what, about 3,000 feet, isn't it?
Over 3,000 feet, and there's about 284 or 234 or something like that. Anyway, wow. A lot of them actually climbed more than once, and some of them are climbed 10, 15, 20 times because they were special mountains.
Yeah.
To me, they were fairly easy. Because I've climbed them, they were fairly easy to climb. But the thing was, I climbed them, and one mountain that I can tell you about is where my name came from, the Corrie Raven.
Oh, okay, tell us. Lovely.
Was we have a mountain in Scotland. It's called Schiehallion.
Schiehallion.
And Schiehallion is Scottish for the fairy hill, because the people believed that the fairies lived on Schiehallion, on the hill.
Okay.
And we have caves around Schiehallion, and you believe that the fairies lived in these caves. And people used to be frightened to climb Schiehallion when it was getting to dusk, because they'd be frightened that the fairies would come and lament them.
Mm-hmm.
The magic world of the into the caves, and lament them and they would disappear and never be seen again. So I kind of learned, read up a bit about the fairies and Schiehallion, and I'd already climbed Schiehallion. It's quite quite a busy hill,
Mhm.
right? And it's a beautiful mountain. But what I was doing my, cutting a long story short, I was doing my Bardic course at the time, or just before the Bardic course, maybe round about 2003, 2004 it was, and I was looking for a. People were talking about a. Oh, you have to get a spirit animal. You have to find a spirit animal. And when in my day, when I was doing my beginning to do my druid practice my druidry and find out about things, I used to get extremely excited about druidry, finding and learning about things and learning about the elements and learning about bards and hobbits and oh my god, the element of earth and blah 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 this and all this. Oh yes, and so it progressed that someone once said I had a friend called John Wolfpaw, and I asked him,
Oh,
where did Wolfpaw? I says, where do you get the name Wolfpaw from? And he had his own little story about it. I can't really remember. He had his own little story about it, and he got he obviously just got called. His name was John Wilson, but everybody called him John Wolfpaw. So he was
okay.
just known as Wolfpaw. As you know, everybody just you get a name given to you or something, and it kind of sticks, and everybody carries on calling you that nickname. So I thought, oh well, what am I going to do? So I went up Schiehallion, and I was looking for, as a young lad, and I was quite wild. And I was looking for like I said, a sign of the bear or something like that, something that was going to be, you know,
Big.
big and strong and strength. And I was sitting on top of Schiehallion Mountain, and I was the second person up there that morning because Schehallion's like Ben Lomond. It's like in the middle of the high street of Glasgow on a Saturday afternoon. In the afternoon, there's millions of people go up them. Not so much Schiehallion, but Schiehallion does get busy. So I was sitting at the top, and when the guide went away, this was about 8 o'clock in the morning, because you went to the mountains. We used to go at 6 o'clock in the morning to get out as the sun was coming up. And
Wow, beautiful.
you saw the animals. You didn't. You saw the deer and the eagles. You saw the birds flying about. So you were waking it up with nature, walking up the mountain. And so you're sitting at the top, and all of a sudden I was sitting there thinking about animals and totems and sweat lodges and how does people find out who their totem animal is. Also, you can have more than one totem animal if you wish. You don't have to
Mhm.
be reliable on one. You can have as many as you want. So, and all of a sudden, this great big, huge black raven came down and sat right beside me on the rock.
Wow.
And it was I could have put my hand out and touched it, but I was a wee bit frightened. It was a
Yeah.
great, huge thing, and it sat there and it's crack, 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 and it was sitting crawling away to me, talking away. It must have been there for at least nearly a minute,
Wow.
and at that a minute is a long time, really, when you sit just counting 1 to 60. A minute is a long time, and this big bird was hopping up and down the rock, and I was sitting looking at it and talking back to it, and it was crack, 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 and its beak was going crack, crack, crack. Maybe it was wanting a bit of my sandwich, I don't know. But anyway, I gave it a bit of my sandwich, and I took my sandwich, crack, crack. Then it flew away,
That's
and I thought,
beautiful.
That's fantastic. That was my first connection with a raven. And I thought, that is superb. So a few weeks later, I went back again to climb the mountain again with some friends. Again at 7 o'clock in the morning, and we're up. And as we were walking up, there was two ravens were flying over our head, and I was behind everybody else. So everybody was in front of me. And I looked up and I seen the two ravens, and I shouted, "Hey, raven, craw, 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 craw." And the one at the back circled, came swooping down, went round me a couple of times in a circle, crawling, and just took off and away back up. And the two of them then disappeared over the mountain. And I thought, wow, I wonder if that was the raven, because ravens can remember.
That's right.
People. I wonder if that was the raven that I gave about my sandwich to the other week. And thought this was fantastic because this was an encounter with the ravens. I wasn't thinking about choosing the name Raven. So I then logged that in the notebook. And a future mountain, another mountain that we went up a few weeks later, I was pretty hungover from the night before. I'd been drinking, and you're not supposed to drink when you go up the mountains. So I had a little bit of a hangover, but we were going up the second biggest mountain in Scotland, Ben Starriff.
Okay.
It's covered in snow, and I was climbing up, but I was so thirsty I was drinking all my water. So by the time we got near to the top, I drank my 2 litres of water, finished it. And so I'm stapping my bottles full of snow to get melt snow for water, you see. And we got to the top, and the top of Ben Starriff is very pointy. It's not a very big top. It's quite a small top, about the size of a living room.
Okay.
It's not very. And when we got to the top, there was 2 or 3 people there sitting having their tea. And of course, I was kind of hungover, melting the snow. And we were going to be doing 2 mountains that day, Ben Starriff, and another one away over, a couple of miles over from it. We were going to go down and go back up a second one.
Wow.
So we sitting in the top, and we weren't sure which was the proper way out, because so many people had been up and they'd made so many paths. Usually there's a little sort of sheep path you can
follow.
Sheep take. So you couldn't see any paths. Obviously, there was footprints going left, right, and centre all over the place. And my friends were saying, "Well, how are we going to get down off of here to the next one? We don't know which direction to go. Either go left or go right, or what do we do?" I says, "Well, I don't know." And my head's throbbing. And all of a sudden, lo and behold, this raven comes flying round about, and he flies over, round about us, on top of the hill, round and round, up and down. And I says, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'll find out the way to get down." I says, "How are you going to find out?" I says, "I'm going to ask that raven." And they thought I was crazy.
Yep.
So I walked away down to the side of it. I was looking up, and I was crawling to the raven. He was circling, just circling, like a vulture, just circling. And I says, "Raven," I says, "could you help us?" I says, "We're stuck. We're wanting to find a way down to the bailiff to go down to the mountain, to the next mountain, blah, blah, blah." I says, "But we're not sure which direction, if it's this path here or if it's this path here. Could you direct us in the right path, dear Raven?" And
now, you were speaking Raven.
Pardon?
You were speaking Raven to the raven.
I must have been, I don't know. It must have heard me anyway. And it was circling. I says, "Could you please show us the path out, because we don't know, we don't want to get lost. Because if you take the wrong path on the mountain, you could end up 100 miles away from your car." So anyway, the raven flew around about, and all of a sudden he swooped down towards me, and he swooped away to my left. And I thought, "Oh, he's telling me go down the left path." And I says, "Are you sure now, Raven? Is that the right way?" And he flew up, and he went round in circles, and he came down on my head again, and he swooped down to the left again. And as he swooped down to the left, I just said, "This is the way out. This is the way we've got to go." So I went back up and told my friends. I said, "Okay, I know which way to go." I says, "How do you know?" I says, "Because the ravens told me." It says, we go down the left path. It says, you sure? Because if we don't, we're going to end up in another area, which is miles and miles and miles away from the car. I says, no. I says, the Raven has told me to go down the left path. So we went down a bit off the mountain, got down off the mountain a bit. And as we came down and out of the cloud, because you were in the cloud and you came out of the cloud, you could see the bear. It's called a bearlick. A bearlick is a thing between two mountains, like a saddle between two mountains. So as we came out of the cloud, I could see the bearlick in front of me. And I says, well, there's the bearlick that we need to go to. And there's the second mountain in front of us. And lo and behold, this was the right path down. And to the second mountain, up to the second mountain, back down again. And when I got home, I sat and I thought, and then I was reading about my courses and reading bits and bobs. And I thought maybe the Raven is my total man animal. Maybe I should learn and teach myself about the Raven. And so I had a special name that I used to call myself, that I used to get called at school and some work. And so I called myself this name, Raven of the Corrie. As I maybe mentioned, I told you the story before. So I called myself such and such, Raven of the Corrie. And then it abbreviated, because I didn't want to say that name to other people, so I abbreviated it into Corrie Raven. And that's where my name, Corrie Raven, came from.
So the Corrie piece, Corrie, like you call the Corrie Vrecken, that I assume is a cauldron, because Curra is in Irish, and Gaelic are very similar. Where do you get Corrie from in your landscape?
The Corrie in the mountain is the great big gorge in the mountain. Like you say, is the great big cauldron. It's like when you look down the side of a mountain, you see there's a great big cut, big bit out. That's the Corrie in the mountain. And of course, the ravens are flying about in the Corrie. So it just had to be the Raven of the Corrie. And it turned into Corrie Raven. And since 2004, I've been called that ever since.
Well, there's a lot of lovely response to you. Anne says, this happened to me in Baffin Island, North Canada too, being led by a raven. I was on a solitary walk at dawn on the edge of the community in the snow. I lost my bearings, but a raven accompanied me and pointed the way back, talking all the way. It was so wonderful. It's just a wonderful response to your
just a story that that's just something totally different. Not totally different, but it's about corvids, about what do you call them? The cloaked corvid, the one that's got the white cloak on it. Not the magpie. By jinx. Anyway, there's a friend in Ukraine, a young girl in Ukraine who's befriended our Druid page, and she lives in Kiev at the moment, and she's had lots of turmoil with the war and stuff. And she looks after some animals. She looks after cats, some dogs.
Okay.
And if I'm right, I can't pronounce her right name, but she told me to call her Tata.
Okay.
So Tata sent us a lovely little story with some pictures. Hooded raven, hooded crow.
Yes, we have them in Ireland. Hooded crow.
That's what we're talking. Hooded crows. Where she lives, she has been befriended by the crows.
Oh.
The hooded crows. And when there's trouble, they travel with her. They travel with her when she's walking about, loads of them, and they come into her garden, sit in her trees, loads of them sit in her trees and that. But when there's trouble coming, they fly above her and squawk and squawk and squawk and squawk.
Warn her.
Tell her there's trouble coming. And when she sees this happening, she knows it's time to go and hide. And she wrote a little story that we got posted on our Druid page on Facebook, and she put 3 or 4 pictures of the the crows, the hooded crows, and it was a wonderful little story that she's always happy. She's made connections with the crows. She's made connections now with the baby crows who now come to her, and there's loads of them. And they come and they sit in her branches, sit in her trees, and then when she gets up to go somewhere, they all fly and follow her and stuff like this. It's amazing. So
Right.
I'm hoping she'll maybe send another couple of stories of what she gets up with them. Like, she's an amazing girl over there who's befriended, and they have befriended her. And if they sit in her car, they sit everywhere, with her. And she gets up with her dog and her cats and stuff. The corvids are not bothered. They just fly about, jump about, and walk about with her. But as soon as there's an alarm, or as soon as there's fear, they get up and they all circle and squawk and squawk and squawk and squawk to warn her that there's. And it's amazing. But that was just a wee extra story I remember there.
I think that's beautiful. John King says it's interesting how many people identify with the corvid tribe. In his case, it's the Jay. And I had a guest, Steve Barnes, maybe a year ago, and he is he has jays that come in. He opens his bedroom windows open, and he has a bird feeder in his bedroom, and the jays come in and feed inside the house.
Yeah, he's into the blackbirds as well.
Yes, it's just fascinating.
He wrote a song about the blackbirds, him and his wife, and it was beautiful.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sandy says, I don't know if you know Sandy Coombs, she's in Tintagel. Corvids are great companions. What a wonderful story. I have crows. They also know when I call them, and they also stopped the seagulls attacking my doves. Amazing.
Yeah.
And Stephanie says, corvid birds really do warn of trouble. The crows and magpies do it where I live too. Whenever a hawk, a stranger, or a cat is around, they're very intelligent and friendly breed. What did she say? Sevda? Crows sign to speak your truth. Wow. I wonder what that means. Oh, it is a sign to speak your truth? Fascinating. Well, you've got loads of people, Michelle, connection with.
Well, they were. It's folklore that the raven is the messenger. Also, he's not just the one who sits in the battlefield cleaning up the dead bodies,
right,
but he is the messenger between the other world and this world, and seemingly the only bird that can travel from world to world, carrying the messages.
Wow.
I was lucky when I was up another mountain. I came across a derelict farmhouse, and lo and behold, I seen a raven flying away in the distance, and I thought, I wonder if it's been living in this farmhouse, because they like to live in very derelict places.
Yes.
Just the two of them. And I went into the farmhouse, and lo and behold, there was a raven feather. I've got it stuck on my wall here. It's about 14 inches long.
Ooh, okay.
And it's my first real raven feather that I've found. And it's just absolutely, I just love it to death. Plus the fact I also wrote to the Raven Master down in the London Tower.
Oh, did you?
What's his name? Jeff Bake or something like that. But I wrote to him a few letters because the Raven's down there, and he's great to watch on Facebook and Instagram because he gives you all the stories of the ravens and gives you all their names and stuff.
Beautiful.
And I asked him, I said, well, any chance of you sending me up some raven feathers? And he says, no problem. And 3-4 days later, I got an envelope with 4 raven feathers in it. But he apologised because the ravens got to get clipped down in the tower.
Yeah.
So the feathers weren't as long as the one that I found, but I've got 3 feathers from the ravens from the Tower of London, which I'm quite quite chuffed that he actually
That
sent
is
them.
really kind. It's a beautiful story. Aaron says, magpies guided my husband and me to the house we moved into. And now we have a murderer living nearby who talked to us all morning. It's just
Oh,
beautiful.
magpies. I could tell you a story about a magpie.
Go on.
Well, I could tell you tons of stories, Eva, but the thing is, a magpie, I was always taught that when you're driving your car and a magpie flies past, you have to salute it
That's right.
or get bad energy, you'll get negativity.
Mm.
But if two magpies fly past, that's okay. You can let them
No,
fly.
or
That's
sorrow.
fine.
Joy. Yeah.
I went to a Druid meeting in Loch Winnoch outside Glasgow with my first Druid order, Druid group. And I had a kind of an old car at the time, and we were going up to this car park to park, and we were going to be having a camp. And we have a camp, and as I drove up, a magpie flew past, and I never bothered because I was in a rush, in a hurry. I was late, and the magpie flew past, and I went, "Oh, please, front of the car." And oh, geez, then into the car park, parked. We did our camp. I jumped into the car, tried to start the car, and it wouldn't start. We tried to start the car for about an hour, wouldn't start at all. A tourist came in who was in the AA, and he says, "Oh, I'm in the AA." He says, "I can get the AA man to come out, start your car for you, because I can tell him it's my car, and they'll come out." So he phoned up the AA. We tried to start the car, tried pushed it, wouldn't start. The AA man came out, walked up to the car, turned the key, and the car started. And he says, "What's the problem?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." I said, "The car wouldn't start." I says, "It was a magpie." It was a magpie. And he says, "What magpie?" I says, "The magpie that flew past me and I didn't salute it." I says, it put a stop to my car and it wouldn't start. So I thought, my God. So ever since then, I've taught lots of people that who didn't know about it that if you ever see a magpie flying past your car when you're driving, always give it a salute, you know.
I do that. And if I see one, I always look for a second just in case. And if not, then I salute it.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that's my wee story of the magpie.
That's beautiful, beautiful. So you are a poet as well, aren't you?
Well, I have written quite a lot actually.
Do you have
Um,
anything you'd like to
I
share?
have lots of stories which are too long to tell. I've got little bitty poems that are quite
Okay.
small to fill gaps in, and I've done quite a lot of writing in the last sort of 20 years. It's absolutely and I'm someone who was pretty illiterate at school because I told you I was into sports. I wasn't into school. I didn't like school, so I couldn't put two words on paper at all. I couldn't write stories, or I hated school where you had to write stories for the teacher and stand up in the class and
Yeah.
read them out, and I just couldn't do it. So one thing about my Druidry, it has actually expanded my something inside my mind that I've now been able to put more than one word in front of the other. And as I said to Brendan Howland when I was doing my Bardic course, I said, "You know, Brendan, I've got it all up here, what I want to say, but I can't take it from here and put it out here."
Yeah.
I says, "And I can't put it onto paper." He says, "I know exactly what you're meaning." He says, "But he says, don't worry about it." He says, "Just carry on doing what you're doing." He says, "You'll eventually just do bits at a time." He says, "And you'll progress." And I did, you know.
Brilliant.
So I've managed to put together loads of stories, loads of rituals, loads of blessings. I've wrote prayers. I've got 4 songs
Mm.
that I can't sing tonight. I've got tons of little bits of poems and poetry and little writings of nature, you know. So if you want, I could try and give you something. I could try and give you. Let me see. I could try and read you this little thing here.
Yep.
I think I put this together. I mean, I'm not a great poet, but if I can write these things, anybody can write these things. And if I can put more than two words together, then everybody can put two words together, no problem. So I wrote this thing, and it's not terrific, but it's one of my very very beginning ones where I was just learning, and it's called "Sings in the Wind."
Okay.
She sings in the wind, sweet breath on a breeze. Her song of peace echoes around the glens, carried by the lark through the valleys and trees. A leader of souls, a healer, a friend. Like the wise owl in the ancient oak tree, your wisdom, your knowledge, your thoughts you send. Sweet lady, sing your song and set your spirit free. Share your soul, your healing transcend. Walk your path, sacred white unicorn. Your voice must be heard. For the souls who stand alone, innocent and in need. As the year turns to Beltane, your flame should be shared, to be nurtured and cherished, to be spread like the seed. With knowledge and strength and blessings to share, from the beaver and the badger, the wolf and the bear, owl of the sky, owl of the night, she who sings in the wind will shine in the light.
Wow.
And it's a little poem for a woman who came into our group about 2000 to 2003, and she was a kind of a Reiki healer. She was a healer, and she used to when we go out to nature, she would sing, and I used to call her, Jenny, who sings in the wind.
That's
So
beautiful.
this is a wee thing for old Jenny who sang in the wind, and it's a very. When I read it, I know what I can see the whole thing, the whole story, So that was one little thing. I mean, I could give you another small one if you.
Okay, that's lovely. You're getting great applause here.
Oh, all money accepted. All money accepted. Doesn't matter what country. This one's united by our bond.
Okay.
Another small one. United by our bond of peace and love, healing for the earth and the stars above. With the inner light we stand as one, to stand strong and shine bright through the dark to come. Son of the seasons and the wheel of the year, we come together at midsummer to celebrate you here. As you travel the sky, shine high and bright. Radiate peace and joy for your children tonight. Fill the people with warmth and their hearts full of love, healing for the earth and the stars above.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So if you want, I could go on for the next 3 hours and give you all these little ditties, which I know I better not,
Someone, I can't remember who was up the thread, said you should be publishing your stories and obviously your poems. And Gunter, who's in Switzerland, said gold for poems like this, not pennies. So Angela says you definitely have bardic talent. So
well, I actually think that I'm in the Druid course at the moment with Obod. My butt now for all the young people who, if there's any young people there listening who are doing any courses with Obod and that, don't be frightened of them. Just take them as day comes as minute comes, as hour comes, just take them and do what you can do. Put them down, pick them up, put them down, pick them up, do them, write little bits, and you'll eventually get to somewhere where you'll get fed up and you'll say, "Oh, I'm going to write a review and see what happens." So my Bardic course lasted 7 years, uh, not because I was illiterate in the things that I was trying to learn. It's just because I was busy working at the time as well. I was an electrician, very busy.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working and doing the Bardic course and also running a Druid group in Glasgow. So it was a case of trying to keep my friends going in Glasgow and all that going on there. My boss happy with the work and filling in time with my Bardic course. And as I said, I told Brendan that I wasn't here for a short spell. I'm here for the long spell. But so I took 7 years with the Bardic course. I did 5.5 years with the Ovid course, and I've been in the Druid course now for maybe 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think. But it's just that time doesn't stick with me. I don't. I wouldn't know the last time I picked up my Druid gear, so but I know I'm reading something.
Yeah.
And they always stick in my mind where I am, where it is, what I'm thinking about, and I know what I'm supposed to be writing about. So what I do is I just go out into nature, go out to the countryside. Things will come into my mind. Some words will come into my mind about something that's getting asked to get done in one of the Gweersy, and I'll write it down. I'll write some words down. I'll come home. I'll put it in my notebook. After a year or so, I'll look because I'm a great one. I take a lot of photographs. So I'll look at all my photographs. I'll read my notes. I'll say, "Oh yes, that's the forest of such and such I was in. This is what I was doing. This is where I was reading.
Oh,
This is
wonderful.
writing." So, oh yes, right. So I'll sit down and I'll write up my part for my coursework, and I'll end up maybe doing 2 or 3 pages on one subject,
Wonderful.
which is good, but it's too much. It's like for me, it's too much. I feel like I'm doing too much on one little thing. I'm not. I should be thinking about other things and going with them as well. But then it was like, dare I say it, the hermit. I kept on going back to the hermit because the hermit was something that was in my mind before I was doing the course. So it was something another web connection that was capturing me to something else. Then I went into the hermit, and I went from the hermit to a bothy in the mountains. I went from the bothy in the mountains to this story. Then it went from the story to a poem. Then I managed to write a poem, and I managed to write a story. Then it was all about a tree. So then I went on, so I got so from one story to the next story to the next story. Then I meet a tree, befriended a tree, and I sat with the tree for a long time because it was kind of dying. It was a bit like Gog and Magog.
Okay. Yeah.
It was a wee bit higher, but it was a sweet chestnut tree, and it was quite high. And it's a famous tree in Perth here, known as the Cromwell tree, because there's stories about Oliver Cromwell. It was planted when he was here, or people were supposed to have hidden in it from Cromwell soldiers, all that stuff.
Okay.
And it's one of these trees which just looks like an explosion of branches all over the place, all crooked. Everything's crooked, all crooked ways. And I sat there at this tree, and I thought, this is fantastic. This tree just looks beautiful. Even in death, it looked beautiful, And there was other plants and growing off the trunk, so it was giving birth to other
Yeah.
other
Beautiful.
beings. So I thought, right away, a couple of words came into my mind, and I thought, oh, so da 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 da. I ended up writing about 3 pages talking to this tree.
Wonderful.
So I spoke to the tree spoke back to me. We became friends. I went out to visit him quite a few times. And when I'm actually standing on the hill fort at Moncrieff, as I was telling you about, you can look right down into the little village of Bridge of Erne, and I can see the tree in the field in the distance, and it's still there. So possibly now that I've been thinking about it and talking about it, maybe this weekend I'll have to have a wee visit and see how he's doing. Like, you know.
Great. Beautiful.
But, so that was part of just a little travel from one to the other, and it all started thinking about the hermit, and then it took me to this ancient old sweet chestnut tree, and 3 pages long, big story, talking, you know, chanting Irwins to it, and it's chanting Irwins back at me and talking to me, and everybody thought he was crooked and ugly, but I saw beauty in it, and the tree felt that I was giving it the love back, and it could feel, the tree could actually feel that I was acknowledging it in itself, you know.
It's interesting when you see a crooked tree, you know, it's telling its story, its life story in its shape, because it will have had lots of adversity, lots of wind, so that, you know, the idea,
Yeah, well,
normal pathways to go straight up. I
if
have
you
a
forget
rowan.
1 second, I'll just get something here to show you. Sorry about that, Eimear.
No worries.
You know, I'm like, I don't know if you can see this tree. I'm going to hold a picture.
Yes,
See that tree?
I do.
Yeah.
I see that. Yeah.
It's half covered in snow on one side, on top of the branches, and I'm not sure what tree it is. That tree, that was 1999 at Loch Winnoch, at down at the pond. My very first ever encounter with Druidry, where I met my first Druid.
Okay.
It was Christmas time, and my friends asked me where I wanted to go to. And I says, oh, I don't know, let's pub shall we go to, and we'll get blutered, and we'll have fun. We'll go to some ceilidh somewhere and stuff. And they gave me a what's on. And by this time, because I'd done a lot of other things before, I decided, oh, here's Yule Festival, Druids of Albion. I went, oh, wonder what that is. That sounds magical. Druids. I says, it must be something magic. It must be something spooky. It must be, I must go and find out. I must find out what that is. So my interest caught me, and my friend said, oh, you don't want to go to that. Let's go to the ceilidh, such and such. I said, no, I want to go here. So he said, okay. So we went down, we were early. And this is before I had mobile phones with cameras and stuff. I just had a small camera. And I walked round the back of the loch, and lo and behold, this little tree was sitting there all by itself. And I stood and I looked at this tree for ages, thinking how beautiful it was. And I thought, isn't that just absolutely beautiful? This is in the snow just sitting on one side of it. It's bare on the other side, you know, opposites. And so I thought, right, I'm going to see this druid. I says, find out what a druid is. So I went into the room, asked people where it was and if I was allowed to come in. And sure enough, people were allowed to come in. We all sat around the table. And this was Yule, 1999. And in walked this man with a big white robe, grey hair like myself, grey hair, kind of greyish beard, small beard, and his woman behind him. She walked in and she had white robes on as well. And I thought, oh, this is the Druids, and started getting goosebumps, thinking, well, what's going to happen, you know? And this man started speaking away, and he just captured everybody. He just captured the audience. He captured me. He spoke about things things that I believed in, that from the school days that I hated, but I liked nature. I liked the climbing with the teacher. He started telling me all about nature things, and I thought, wow, that's what I believe in. I believe in that. I thought, well, this guy is very interesting. So I sat there and listened and listened, and he spoke away about Yule. We did a lovely ritual that I still have copies of all these rituals. He started drumming. I thought, ooh, drumming. That's great. That's well, this is spook. This is really your skin was, you know, you can see. And I thought, this man's just fantastic. I says, I've got to find out who this is. And so when everybody else left, I went back in. And I says, hello. I says, can I ask you a question? I says, about Druidry. I says, Druid. I says, what is a Druid? What do you do? He says, well, what do you do? I says, well, I says, at the moment, I said, I really like climbing the mountains of Scotland. I'm climbing a lot of the mountains and camping and trees. I says, I like oak trees. I says, I like oak trees, and I like to climb the oak trees. I like sitting in them, and I used to sit in the trees when I was a wee boy, and I like walking through the nature and finding out all about the plants and the grasses and about sacred places, like, you know, for where the Picts were and stuff. He says, that's all Druidry.
Yeah.
He says, yeah. He says, that's all Druidry. He says, just you go out and enjoy yourself in nature, enjoy yourself. He says, and he says, you're just doing what people who follow Druidry do. So I thought, well, okay, if it's as easy as that. So I asked him if we could come back again another time. And he says, yes. He says, you can come back at the next festival. Give me your address and I'll send you a letter. Because then it wasn't emails, it was letters. So he sent me a letter, and it was Immelt. On the 2nd of February, he took us, I think it was, at Immelt. And I went again, and I sat and listened to his story. One of these voices, it was like Philip Carr-Gomm. He had one of these voices. Once they start, they've caught you.
That's right. Yes.
The tone, the way it dances and weaves and captures you, and bingo. The guy had caught me. That was me. I was hooked. And I says, can I join? Can I come? Or how do you join? Or what do you do? He says, I'll send you a little pack, and see if you like it, and if you want, you can come along. Now, Loch Winnoch from Perth is about an hour and a half's drive. So I thought, well, it's a bit of a drive, but I'm interested. Now, when I'm interested in things, I don't really care how far. I'll go to them.
Go, yeah,
because that's what I'm going for. So I went, and I got more interested, more hooked on it, more stories, more ceremonies, more rituals, and I was beginning, because I'd been brought up a Catholic, and I was an altar boy. I was one of these guys that swung.
I remember swinging the thurible. Yeah,
swinging the marijuana back and forward. I kind of I could relate to religious things, but I hated the word religion, and I didn't like the word religion, and I didn't like the word gods. Maybe that's why I'm a spiritual druid rather than a polytheist kind of druid. But anyway, he taught me all these things, and then he taught me stuff, and he had a course going. To cut a long story short, you had a druid course that a lot of us started doing, and lo and behold, he then took ill, His name was Chris Turner, by the way.
Chris
Uh,
Turner.
his druid name was Coify, and he'd been a druid for over 30, 40 years, so before I'd met him. So he was well adversed, and he knew Philip, and knew Obod. I think he was a member of Obod for a while, I think. I'm not sure what happened. I think there was a disagreement, maybe, could have been, or something. And I always remember him telling me that Philip told him that there was enough place in the world for all types of druidry.
Yes, indeed.
And that's all I know. So anyway, he took ill, the poor man. He died with cancer, and we went out to his house, to his wife. She was the other one who in the white robes, and she let us go up to his room where he was lying with his robes on. And I was so taken with that little time that I had with him, about maybe a year and a half or whatever it is. I was just so in awe. I just loved listening to him. I loved the things he was telling us. I loved the way he was explaining religious things to me because I could relate to them. So I was very happy to go. Went up to his room, to his body, and I remember looking down his body and thinking, "Farewell, Chris," stuff like this. I put my hand on his body and thinking, I hope this is not the end. So, cut a long story short, again, his wife and myself and a couple others kept the group going for a year or so.
Okay.
It then got a little out of hand with other people coming in. I won't go too deeply into all this, but it got out of hand. Politics kind of things got into it, and it was time for me. I thought I can't be here. I've got to go. So I left.
Okay.
I thought I don't want to leave Druidry. What am I going to do? I don't want to leave Druidry. Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? So I thought I was talking to my friend, and we were at there was a music festival in Scotland called the Wicker Man Festival, and it was a giant 20 feet, 30 feet high Wicker Man got burned every year at this Wicker Man Festival. And I was there with John Wolfpaw, my friend. And I said to him, I says, John, I says, maybe we should start our own group. Because he was quite intelligent. He was quite intelligent in a lot of matters, a lot more intelligent than I was. But I decided then, let's start our own group up, John. And I don't know what happened, but the both of us got a wee bit carried away with the music and the drink. And then the next thing, we had a meeting, and that's when we decided to leave the Druids of Albion and go our own way. And John turned around and he says, remember we were talking at the Wicker Man Festival? I says, yeah. He says, we're going to start our own group. So why don't we start it? I says, yeah, well, why don't we? He says, yeah. And he brought out a bit of paper and he's, here, what do you think of this? The Druids of Caeldon. I says, the Druids of Caeldon. Now we call it Caeldon, some people call it Caledon, but we call it Caeldon. So he says, the Druids of Caeldon. Okay, let's start the Druids of Caeldon. So it was just him and I. But then some of the others had left and they wanted to come with us. And so there was 5 of us who initially then got the whole thing of the Druids of Caeldon up and running. So it was five people, our 5 Druids. And so we progressed from just the 5 of us to more. And we then started doing little ceremonies all over central Scotland. We would travel to all the all sacred sites and have some there and one here and one. But my thought was, I told them I wanted it to be a carry on from Chris Turner for Coify, because what he was doing was his love and his thing was he wanted to bring Druidry out into the public, to the public people, and not make it secretive.
Mm-hmm.
So I says, that's what I'm going to do. We're going to start a group up. We're going to follow Chris's flame. We're going to light the flame for Chris Turner, and we'll carry it forever. And we'll call ourselves the Druids of Caeldon, and we will take Druidry out to the public domain, and introduce Druidry to everybody who wants to know about it. And it's flourished. 2004, we started the Druids of Caeldon, and it's flourished from then. We have a Facebook page, the Druids of Caeldon Scotland, which we put a lot of interesting stories on, and Scottish stuff, and Druid stuff, and Obod stuff. And we have went from the 5, which this is our 5. This is, if you see this.
Oh yes, yeah. I see the 5 options, yes.
I designed this with my very first oak leaf.
Okay.
Big oak leaf. I scanned it. I put 5 leaves together, put the arrow in, the circle for the world, and I got a friend of mine to carve me. It's carved in yew wood.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And as I said to you before, the connections of the web, the spider's web, things connecting to one another. And here's me producing this this symbol, my symbol of the Druids of Caeldon, and it turned out 5 leaves, 5 oak leaves. You know?
Yeah.
5 oak leaves, representing the 5 people who started the group.
Okay.
And it just progressed from there. And now our Facebook page, we've got a couple of thousand people now who follow us on Facebook.
Wonderful.
Very interesting. We do the 8 festivals a year in a place called Rooking Glen Park, Glasgow, central Scotland, because it lets everybody come into
together. Okay. Yeah.
I've got to travel about an hour and a quarter every time I want to go, but we hold the 8 festivals there, 8 public festivals, and it's progressed from our 5 to we've got round about 20 odd members who donate something each year to the group to pay for insurance and pay for rooms or whatever. We have the public. Sometimes we've had up to the highest number we had was 78 people at one festival. Ooh. We've introduced so many people to Obod, it's unbelievable. We've had so many Obod people joining Obod as bards. We have, I think, one who was on earlier possibly went to the Druid course, and myself, and everybody, the majority of the people who are in the group at the moment must be about 12 to 15 bards in the group.
Somebody's asking, how do you spell the name? The Druids of?
Caeldon. It's Caeledon.
Oh. Okay, that's on Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay, you can find that. Just somebody asked that. Great. So I'm curious, how did you get from the Druids of Caeldon to Obod?
Right. Well, as I said, when I felt I was getting lost between the Druids of Albion, the Druids of Caeldon, my Druid mentor had died. Who was I going to follow? What was I going to do? I looked up. There was the Druid order. There was Obod. There was 2 or 3 other ones. I didn't know what to join or what to do, or it was just some place to get information, to get knowledge. Seek knowledge, find the knowledge, get the wisdom, make myself into a better Druid, be able to teach some of the other ones, whatever, and build myself up. And eventually, I don't know what it was, but we did our end of day ritual at the Druids Conference in Glasgow,
Uh-huh.
and Dav the Bard was there.
Ah, okay.
And but a story before that, I'd met Dav the Bard before this in Stourbridge, where there was a big Druid conference in Stourbridge, and
Okay.
I had a thing where I wanted to meet everybody. Everybody, it was, I call them famous, like you're famous. You're Philip Carr-Gomm was like, a movie star. Yeah. Dav was sort of someone who I just met, and Philip Shallcrass and Jeff
Yeah.
Boswell and Matt, the guy McCabe, his first name,
Matt.
Matt McCabe. I
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to meet people because I'd seen an Emma Restalor.
Hmm.
I'd seen I'd met Emma Restalor before in Edinburgh at a workshop she did, and I'd been in the Dues of Albion at the time, and she's a lovely person to speak to, and she was telling me things.
Okay.
And I don't know how I found out about this thing in Stourbridge, but anyway, I ended up down in Stourbridge with the woman from the Dues of Albion who was giving a talk, and I was her sort of assistant. I was helping her, and I met all these people, Philip Shallcrass and everybody, and I thought it was great. And Dav got up to sing, and I thought, oh, well, here's another folk singer going to get up, give us some folk songs. It'll be nice. I'll sit back and just relax. And he started singing a lot of the songs from Heron's Apprentice. That was just when he just come out, and
Mm.
I thought, wow, now that is absolutely wonderful. Because he's got such a clear voice. This is
Yes.
why one reason I like that. Such a clear voice, you can hear the words.
Hmm?
You can hear him sing. You can hear every word he's singing about.
That's right.
And he sat and he played all these songs from Heron's Apprentice, and I thought that is absolutely fantastic. And the songs he was singing about dreary things were getting me all goosebumps again. So I thought, well, I've got to go. I've got to get this album. I've got to get this CD. And lo and behold, he was selling CDs. I bought CD from him, and Will Worthington, he was there.
Oh,
And
okay.
I got 2 or 3 pictures from Will. I met Philip Shallcrass, got to talk to him. I got another talk to Emma Restalor, friend Jeff Boswell. He introduced me to some people and stuff. And I had the most fantastic time. I thought, these guys, these are all oboe people.
Yeah.
I said, so obviously that's where I should maybe go, is to oboe. And so when I started with the Dues of Caeldon, I decided, right, write to Obod and see what happens. I wrote to Obod, and lo and behold, I got my pack, got it all back, got all things about the Bardic course, and I just thought this. And the greatest thing about it was quite a lot of stuff in the Guernsey's were Scottish.
Imagine.
Talking about Scottish things. I don't know if I did it for Scottish people, maybe put English things for it. I don't know, but there was lots of things in the Guernsey's about Scotland and Scottish folklore and stories, which made it even better for me because that's what I enjoy. And it just grew from there. That I thought, that's it. Oh God, that's me. Here I'll go. I just started, and I just progressed into doing the Bardic course. But I know where a lot of people who do these courses, what it is that they get frightened to write things down because they think they're no brainy enough to write anything. And I'm a living example that
Yeah. Same here.
if you just write things down and build on it. And my greatest thing was the spell check on my computer plus the thesaurus. I
Yes.
could go in and I could learn words and I could get my spelling all done without making mistakes.
That's right.
And it was brilliant. And the people who are doing the Bardic course, if you just want to stay on the Bardic course, then it's great. Just stay on it.
Yeah.
Don't. If you think there's people I know who are on the Wovit course who don't want to go into the Druid course, and
Yeah.
they're quite happy.
That's right.
And I just thought, well, I'm in for the long spell. I joined it to be an old boy Druid,
Yeah.
and I wanted to see where Brendan and all these cronies and Philip, when they all went upstairs in the town hall, and up to that room in the heavens, everybody talks about. I says, I want to be up there. I want to go there. You know. Well, I kept on going and going. And I did the Bardic thing, and then I've done my Ovit thing, and I've got my into the Druid thing now. So just it was a pity that the last summer gathering, it was a tent outside. Everything was outside, so I never got into the town hall to go to the heavens and the
No, the Druids weren't there. They were someplace. They were in the hall, not in
the town hall. We're in the hall, the main hall itself.
That's right. Yes.
I wanted to go upstairs.
That's right. The room was too small.
So maybe next year, if my friend Lawrence that you met, if Lawrence with the heart, new heart, once he comes, next time I get there, I'll be able to go up with Brendan upstairs and sit with Brendan because they've got this thing. I've managed to get a lot of things put in the Touchstone magazine.
Yes.
Penny's put a lot of my stuff in Touchstone magazine, my stories and my labyrinth talk and lots of stuff.
Beautiful.
And I've told Brendan, and Brendan, he writes things and it gets put in, and he sends me a message like telling me that, you know, oh, I see you got a story in the Touchstone. Like, oh, that was real nice. And I one day I got 2 stories in the one magazine.
Wow.
So, you know, I wrote to him and said, oh, well, Brendan, you know, I got 2 stories in the one magazine. And I think all the bards now, if they're looking to go further, don't be frightened and just stick at it. Basically, it is frightening when you've not passed it, and you're frightened because you don't know what you're going to be writing about. And that was one thing that got me was I always thought you got a synopsis at the end of your course. That you got a synopsis that giving you a little bit of something that you knew what you were to write about, so you could write your bits of all this stuff. But I didn't get any. But I know of other people who have had them, but I've never had any. So you know, I don't know. But anyway, I just think that the guys in the Bardic course, and I know the ones at in my group and that, some of them would like to go on, but they're frightened to write. And
I was the same. It took me 10 years too.
You've got to just force yourself. You've just got
Get out of your way.
Just write something down and write something easy. Like my poems are very easy. You know, I mean, I don't know where it is now. I could. Oh, James, I've got too many things to show you. I really can sort of see. Here's something here. I'll read you. This is a very sensitive thing here, and I hope you'll get the gist of it. But it was writing about Carr-Gomm.
Okay.
And I didn't know what to write about. And it's funny how, as I was telling you, one thing leads you into another thing, which leads you into another thing. So I was doing my reading about Carr-Gomm and that, and being the goddess of the moon. And Carr-Gomm also one night, I was sitting outside and I was thinking about Carr-Gomm and reading bits and looking at the moon and thinking, what am I going to write? What am I going to do here? You know, what can I say? And I started thinking about my older sister who passed away, and I thought, there's sister, right? Okay, I called it Sister Moon.
Okay.
So I wrote this for my sister. Initially, it was for Carr-Gomm, but then I decided that I'd how far, and I'd give this to. This was for my sister, and I added to it. So it could just be just for, it could be for both, but basically
Okay.
it's written for my sister. And it's called Sister Moon. I stood in the forest. I looked at her and she to me. I smiled and she smiled back at me. I asked her to shine always. She shone the journey home. Each day she shone for me, but my path was getting darker until one day her smile was gone and the journey home was dark and lonely. I stood in the forest and a teardrop entered the sky. Each night I went back. Each night she came to me. Brighter and brighter she smiled. I know now she never leaves me.
It's beautiful.
And that was for my sister, who I always, every time I see the full moon now, I always think my sister is looking down on me, shining on me, showing me the path home, the way home, you know?
That is just so beautiful. We are coming to the end of our time, and you know what?
Oh,
So many other questions. We didn't cover half of what I.
oh, you didn't get to my Antarctic travels and
Oh, listen. Let's. Okay, just do your. We'll go to the Antarctic. Tell us about that.
well, I don't know what time you got, but I went to Antarctica, to the British Antarctic Survey, and I lived on the island of Sydney Island with 13 guys for 18 months with all the animals, and it was absolutely just like a different life, a
Hmm.
different planet, a different time in my entire whole life that I'll never ever see again. But it was one of the most greatest things I ever did. As I was telling you before, one of the great things about being in Antarctica was you get a lot of people coming down wanting to take photographs and film. And we were very lucky that David Attenborough came down in the Endurance ship, and he helicoptered into the base. And it was really funny because when he helicoptered in, you had all these great big hairy bearded men all standing in a circle around the helicopter with cameras hanging off their, you know. And David Attenborough got out and went to the base commander and shook his hand and that. Then another guy got out, and another guy got out, and another helicopter came. Then more people got out, and what we found out was they were coming to do some filming for the Frozen Planet,
Okay.
and he wanted to do some filming of a certain fish called an ice fish. An ice fish which is quite big. It's got a huge big mouth, and it's clear as any clear as water. It's not hasn't got any blood. It's just clear white fluid, clear fluid in it. And they wanted to get some film of an ice fish. So these two producers, one was called Ned Kelly, and the other one was called Dickie Bird. And so we had Ned Kelly, Dickie Bird, and David Attenborough, and this diver. And what the diver would do, they would put these weights on and go into the water right next to the base, which was about a foot and a half deep.
Okay.
And they would lie there, trying to lie there steadily. And the man would put the ice fish, which was docile, it would just sit there, put it into the water, and they wanted to try and film this ice fish swimming. Of course, ice fish just stood there, and all of a sudden, when the man's taking his photographs camera, lo and behold, did they not think of that? But where they were filming was quite close to the drain pipe from the toilets, the waste.
Oh dear.
You can kind of imagine what was maybe happening, that now and again you'd be filming it and a bit of tissue paper would go flying past, or maybe something else would go flying past, and we'd have to get up and stop and then do it again. So we were all sitting round about there, a whole lot of us, and Dave Attenborough's there, and the man's there. He's holding the diver down in the water, poking the ice fish with a bit of stick to try and get it to move. you know, and it's maybe moving a little bit, and they're getting a photograph and video, and here at the end of the time when we seen it on the television, it was this big ice fish that they got some lovely pictures of, but it was supposed to be in the depths of the seas of the Antarctic Ocean, and here it was in a foot and a half on the bay, right next to the base, you know.
Wow.
And
Why is it called an ice fish?
I think it's called an ice fish because it looks like ice. It's like a
Oh,
block of ice.
oh,
It's just
really?
it's
Okay.
like a giant haddock, about 2 feet long, with a mouth about the size of a small ball. And you can see right through it. You can see all its bones. You can see its fluid pumping around its body and stuff. And it's quite a rare kind of fish. So they were taking photographs and video of this poor fish poking it to try and get it to move with all these bits of paper flying past, maybe a beer cap top
Oh
floating
my
past.
God.
But oh, it was crazy. But it was absolutely one of the most fantastic times in my entire life. I'll never ever see it again. But at least I've been there and lived it.
Wow.
That's where I found. I don't know how long I could go on, but I found my sacred place. You know, you have but in Druidry with your courses, the Druids with nobody, we have our sacred deep place in the forest that we can go into. Well,
Yeah.
I says to Brendan, I says, look, Brendan, I says, you know, I'm a bit different from everybody. I don't like just having one. I want to have two.
Okay.
What do you mean? I says, well, so I wrote down, I said, I have my sacred place in the forest. I've got a druid circle, a stone circle in the forest where I go to. It's called the Druid's Seat, and the forest is called the Druid's Forest. And it's where I used to go at the very beginning of my times and sit there for hours and hours on end, drumming and listening to the spirits of the place, listening to the trees creaking, watching the rays coming through the sun, through the trees. And it was fascinating. But then when I was in Antarctica, I had a quiet place that I used to go to and sit. And it was a place called Waterpipe Beach. And I'd go and sit in the rocks and looking down into the water. And I'd be sitting watching the fur seals jumping about pieces of ice up and down and playing. And I'd sit there for hours, just sitting watching them. And I'd look out into this to the sea, the frozen sea maybe, and there was absolutely gigantic icebergs, all this sort of stuff. And this to me felt like freedom. It was like I was like a bird, free. It was just open space, freedom, alive. I could fly there, and I could be there. So I had my bardic course. I had two sacred places. I had my sacred place in the wood where I can go to my druid circle, which was a real place, but it now doesn't even look anything like it. All the trees have been cut down. I've got the magical thing in my head that nobody will ever see.
That's what's the important thing about our inner world and our inner groves.
Yeah.
This has just been absolutely wonderful, and we have to end. And I don't want to, but we need to. It's
Oh
been
well, I'm sorry.
joy.
But,
No. It's been such a joy. Usually, I end. What is your favorite ceremony to mark the Wheel of the Year?
Well, I like all the ceremonies, like everybody says. I like the Yule festival coming up because it's my anniversary of finding my first druid, being in my first ever festival, and I still have the gifts that he gave me in 1999. I have them up in one of my little altars.
Beautiful.
Little gifts that he gave me. So I would say my Yule is one of my favourites, but I also love the Midsummer, where I have my Oak King comes out, and we incorporated the oak crown. So we have a little ritual from the oak crown that we do, and Big Lawrence that you met, 6'4", ex-policeman.
Okay.
He is our Oak King, so he puts the oak crown on, and then we go around and we do all the magic with the oak crown that we do down in Glastonbury at the stones and that they used to do, you know. So I think Midsummer. I love Midsummer, and I do like the Yule one, but I think the Midsummer one because we get this because of the you. I've got the. I'm blessed by going to Obod to the summer gathering, coming home, and about a week later, I'm away to the Jews of Caeldon, and I've got all this all in the 1 month. So I think Midsummer one, but they're all good.
So listen, thank you so much. So I'll allow you say goodbye to everybody.
Oh well, I'll say goodbye, and I hope I haven't bored you to tears.
I don't think so, judging by the comments here.
I've got. I'd just like to say the one reason that I did this is because I watched John King do it, and I thought John can do it, and he's a fantastic storyteller.
Yes.
He can do it, and Paul from Ireland, Paul McCaughrean,
yeah,
he can do it because he's my friend also. Because if they can do it, one day I will do it. But you persisted in me, Eimear, for about a year.
I wasn't going to accept your.
I thought, well, one way to get away from it is to do it, and you might not ask me back.
Oh, absolutely.
I will leave you with this little thing that Ross Nichols. I learned from this. Ross Nichols wrote this thing, and I don't know why it's always stuck in my brain, and it's something that I think is I've got to research into it and find out what he's meaning, because it's a beautiful little, just a little 4 words, not 4 letters, sentences. It's nothing, but
okay.
Listen and see what you can think of this. You've maybe heard it anyway. Well, I know you will have heard it. I will hold up a chalice and wear yellow silk, and around me will be an aura of joy. Now, I don't know what it is, about that.
Beautiful.
That captures me somewhere because it's got my imagination wondering, the aura of joy.
Beautiful.
And I think a lot of his little sayings were beautiful. But I don't know why, but that has always stuck with me.
Beautiful phrase, that aura of joy.
Through my courses. And anyway, so that's it. But I'd like to say thanks very much, Eimear, for having me on.
Not at all.
I'm sure everybody will be sitting there nodding off to their bed.
Well, anyway, we're going to look at the comments now. I'm going to say goodbye. I'll send you back, and then don't go away anywhere because we can look at the comments. Okay.
Okay. All I'll just say is for everybody, it's no a whiskey, but Slangy Bar from Perth in Scotland. Slangy Bar.
Okay.
Love and peace.
Bye, Ray. So thank you so much. I'm just looking at your comments, and we will look at them now. It's such a joy to have you, as I always say, contributing to the conversation and adding with your questions and comments. It's absolutely such a joy to be here and obviously chatting to my guests. So thank you all. I wish you a good morning, a good afternoon, because I know there's people here from Australia and New Zealand and getting up very, very early, or some going to staying up very late. So good afternoon to you, good evening to you, and I look forward to seeing you next week for another Fireside Chat. So until then, slán go fóill.